Hello everybody, it's Jean Hardy-Matthews speaking. I'm just going to give it another minute or so to see if anybody else joins the session, but then we will get started. So bear with me just for 30 seconds to a minute maybe. Okay everybody, if anybody knows me, you'll know that I'm ever so slightly impatient, so I'm not going to wait for too long before we get going with this session. Firstly, a big welcome to this first Workbooks drop-in session. And our plan is to take topics of interest, I hope they are of interest to you, and deliver some informal training on them. As I've just mentioned, my name is Jean Hardy-Matthews, and in case you don't know, I'm the head of the support and managed service teams here at Workbooks. Some of you will know that I've worked for the company for quite a long time, for about 13 years now, in a variety of roles, but I'm really delighted to be doing this, which is launching this series of webinars. In terms of the aim of what we're doing, we want to provide you with guidance on how to use workbooks and to give you hints and tips really to help you make your usage much more effective. The idea is that these will be delivered to you in bite-sized chunks and you can dip in and out of the topics that are of interest to you. If I bring up now, we've got a program of events or sessions, I should say really, for the first half of this year. And we're going to be focusing on the basics of building workbooks reports. We are starting with the absolute basics today and we'll build on them over time. You can see here that our planned topics are listed. We do reserve the right to mix them up ever so slightly, depending on resource availability. And I'm also very aware, I've seen the names of the people who are online, and some of you I know are already very proficient in report building. You are more than welcome to stay for this session. I hope you do. But I think that for some of you, the later ones might be better suited for your requirements. And on that basis, all of you, please do keep an eye open for invitations to future dates and topics that may be of interest. We are scheduling each session for a Wednesday. Today we've started at 3 p.m. UK time, but going forwards, they'll start at 4 p.m. so that hopefully any of you in America will be able to attend too. If you can't attend, the sessions will be recorded. So if you miss any, you can always catch up or provide them for colleagues who might find them useful. We anticipate that each session will take somewhere between 20 and 40 minutes, depending on the topic area, and of course on the number of questions that you put to us, but we don't intend to run the webinar for any longer than an hour at any one time. We haven't yet built out the topics yet for the second half of the year, so if there's anything in particular that you'd like us to cover, that you've got a burning desire for us to cover, please do let us know. And if we think there's going to be a big enough audience for that topic, then we'd be happy to run a session. Turning then to the agenda for today. I'm going to start with a very short overview of why would anybody build a report in Workbooks in the first place. Might seem very obvious, but let's just cover it anyway. What I'll then do is actually go into a demo environment of Workbooks to show you where you can find reports that already exist, where they are on the system. Then I'm going to give you an introduction to the 5 different ways that you can start building a new report. This will be, just to manage expectations, an overview of the options rather than an actual report building session, but in future drop-in clinics we will cover how to actually start building reports. If you have questions along the way, and I hope you do, please add them into the question section and I'll work through them at the end. There's also a reminder here that the session will be recorded and you will receive a link to that in a follow-up email after the webinar. Again, if you register for future sessions but aren't able to attend, you will still get an email with a link to the recording. So I'm going to spend most of the session working in a demonstration environment, but before I switch into it, I just want to take a moment to talk about what reports are used for. as I'm sure you'll appreciate, the main function of reports is to provide the business with information and stats, chiefly around performance. And that performance could be about the overall business, it could be about different departments or individual employees. There's a saying that you've probably heard of, that you can't manage what you can't measure. So here you can see just a handful of high-level examples of different things you might need to measure, although I'm sure that you can easily think of other performance tracking that you'd like to add to the list on the screen at the moment. Another application of reports is to guide users as to the next step in their process, or what they've got to do today or this week, for example. For instance, you need to ensure that no sales follow-ups are overlooked, and things like the most urgent support case is picked up before something else less pressing. And another use of reports is to segment your contacts for inclusion on specific marketing campaigns. We do this a lot. So for example, you might bring out a new product or service that's ideal for customers who've already got a particular product from you, and therefore you want to target them with an introductory offer. Or maybe you want to run a campaign to reinvigorate interest in your business from those customers who've been dormant for a while, that kind of thing. So that's just a little bit of background as to what might the drivers be to put your fingers to the keyboard and start building a report. To make accessing your reports easier, I'm going to show you how you can find existing reports, but to make accessing them a bit easier, we do recommend putting them onto a dashboard. And a dashboard, in case you're not familiar with them, it's very much like a car dashboard. It shows you a collection of instruments, really, that are they're designed to provide you with the information on performance and give you some feedback on how things are going. As you can see here in this screenshot, dashboards can comprise reports and/or charts. And I'm really just showing you this to give you an idea of the end goal when building your reports. So I'm going to go into Workbooks just now rather than showing you some slides. Bear with me while I do this, because we've got a new interface for GoToWebinar, which is slightly different from the ones I've used before. So it'll just take me a moment. Right, hopefully you're now seeing, oh no, sorry, you're still on my slide. Let me just change that. Share something else. See, I know about Workbooks, but I don't really know about GoToMeeting. Okay, but now my screen has changed, so I've got to go back and find that. Oh, no, I'm having real trouble with this. Sorry, folks. I think I'm just about there now. Yes. As I say, I know about Workbooks, but don't test me on anything else. So on the screen at the moment is, within Workbooks, the dashboard that I just showed you a screenshot of. And it is a combination of bits of information, charts and reports. So this is one way to find your reports. And if you didn't know, if I hover over one of, we call these elements or tiles on a dashboard, but from here I can go and, for instance, run this report. So I'll just open that up. You'll see it looks quite different. It's in a grid format, where it's been put onto the dashboard in what we call a card format. So that's just one example of accessing reports. Another way that you can access your reports is, let me minimize this, is to go to the landing page for reports. So you can go to Start, Reporting, and you're taken to a landing page. Just like other landing pages in Workbooks, the default is to show you your records. And in respect of reports, what we mean by your records is the reports you've created. You've also got the All Reports view, again, very similar to every other landing page that we offer you. This is taking its time loading. There we go, it's there. This shows you your reports plus any that have been built by someone else but shared with you. So it might not be every report on your database, but it's all the ones you've been given access to. Then you've got a couple of views that I'm really a fan of. They're relatively new in Workbooks. There's the My Report views and the All Report views. Again, it's the concept of things that you've created compared with a colleague has created. In case you don't know already, every single report has at least one view. We call it the details view, but it might have many views, and that's so that data can be displayed in different ways. So think of it a bit like a pivot table in Excel, where you can rearrange the data without changing the original underlying report. So within the All Reports view grid, for instance, I've set myself up a filter here, if you can see it at the top, that says View Name Contains. Because reports can have many different views, the view that you're looking for might not have the same name as the report. So this way you can search through the view names. So if I search for performance, if I can, whoops, that's not how you spell performance, try that. There we go. I've got 5 rows of information back, but if you notice in column 2 and column 3, we've actually only got 4 reports. The first 1, 2, 3 are unique report references, and then the next 2 share the same report reference, showing that they're just different views of the same report. So let me open one of those. You can open them just by clicking on them. So let's think about how to create a new report. If you look at the Actions option in the left-hand column, you can see some options like Edit and Watch. But the two I wanted to talk about, first of all, I wanted to talk about this one, Export Report Definition. What that does, if you want to replicate a report from one database and put it into another without having to rebuild it, this is where you need to go, Export Report Definition. When you click on it, what it'll do is export, you can probably not quite see that at the top of my screen, it'll export what's called a JSON file, and you can later import that. Just above the Export Report Definition option is Copy this report. So if you want to copy a report within the same database rather than putting it in a different one, you can just use Copy this report. So if I click on that, there we go. What it's done, if I go to the Report tab, it's created an exact copy of everything that was in the original report, and it's given it the same name, but at the end it's appended copy to it, just so that you know. You can change that name. Obviously, you wouldn't call a report change name, but I'm just illustrating the point. And within the various views of the report, it's entirely up to you. You can change the description, you can go into the details, you can remove columns, add columns, change criteria, and so on. If I look at the criteria, I know we haven't taught you how to build a report yet, but hopefully this will be relatively straightforward. Within the criteria here, you can see it's saying status. This is looking at marketing campaigns, by the way. I know that from the little kind of loudspeaker symbol here. It says the status is not closed. And if I load the preview just for a moment for you, you can see there are lots and lots of rows here. If I change the status to be, rather than is not closed, change that to is. So think of that as status equals closed. Save and close it and refresh the preview. Oops. Suddenly you only get one row because there's only one campaign, marketing campaign in this particular database that has a status of closed. The point is, if you can copy reports and manipulate them to suit your requirements, that's a really good way of getting going with reporting. So I'll just run that. So that's 2 ways to start a report. Let me come out of this. But there are 3 other ways. I'm on the report landing page just now. You can see I've got an option for a new report here. I can also get to the same place by clicking on the Start menu and going, to New Report. The 2 options will both bring up this screen that you're seeing now. So let's have a look at what the options are. I'm going to start at the bottom, bizarrely, but one option is to import a report. This is what you can do if you've got a report, that JSON file I mentioned earlier, that you want to bring into this database. It's a bit daft for me to bring in the one that I've just exported from the same database, but to show you the principle, you literally import the report, navigate to wherever your definition is, and then import it. I was just thinking about it. For this to work, you have to have the same fields in your original database as you do in your destination database. If you've got a custom field in your original database that is, and it's in your report, and then you try to import that report into a database that hasn't got that data in it, it doesn't know what to do. It can't know what to do. But if you have, then that's a really great way of recreating reports without too much expending too much energy, really. So I'll just run that. So that's one way of creating your new report. Again, up on the left here, I'm on my landing page view, remember, so I can click on new report. So we looked at import. There's another option. If you look at the second option down, I realize I'm jumping around, but hopefully it makes sense. The second option down is copy an existing report. We've seen that already. So there's two ways you can copy an existing report. You either open the report you want to copy and choose copy from the left-hand side. I've got to say that's the way I find easiest. But the alternative is to choose it from here and then find the report you're looking for. There's a lot on this database, so to make that easier, I would recommend applying a filter and saying the report name contains and find whatever it is you're looking for. I won't do that right now, but hopefully you get that idea. So I'll come out of that. Go back to my new report option. So we've looked at two of the options. Let's look at the other three. The top one, create a report from a template report. Let me click on that for you. Currently in Workbooks, there are more than 130 templates to choose from, which is quite a lot, but hopefully there's lots of things that will help you along the way. So what a template is a pre-configured report that can include columns, it can include calculations, criteria to control what data is included or excluded from the report. It can include conditional formatting. So it's a really good starter for 10 if you like. To make using the templates easier, what I would recommend you do is the first time you go in here, go to filters and say the template name contains, and then go to the top right hand corner, if you're not familiar with doing this, and do just save. What that means is that every time you come to this template selection view, all you have to do is type in a word that you think is likely to be in the title of the template, and it'll bring up the records that fit the bill, as it were. And if you want to use any of these, you just click on them. I'll just click on the top one. And you're away now. This one has got a details view and a summary view. Again, more information about those will come in future sessions. Clearly, you have to give the report a name, otherwise you can't save it. It's a compulsory, mandatory field. I'm not going to save that, don't need it, but that's how you would do it. Go back to new report. So we've looked at templates, we've looked at copying. We haven't yet looked at a pre-populated report. These are very similar really to template reports, but the difference is that they can only ever have a details view, not a summary view, and they don't have any calculations in them. They don't have criteria, they don't have formatting. Really, they are just an array of columns in your report to get you started. And just like all the other ways of copying or importing reports, you can add to those columns, you can delete those columns, you can add new views, whatever you want to do. But it's a handy way to create a report a little bit more quickly because some of the information you might want is likely to be there already. The next option down, which is the fifth one that we've looked at, is creating a new blank report. And really, I describe that as doing exactly what it says on the tin, because it gives you a blank page and you can add in whatever you want to, whatever you need. So that's the very basics of where to go to create a new report. Whiz through it a little bit, but hopefully it makes sense. And in next week's session, next week, it's not next week, 2 weeks' time, we'll cover actually how to build your very first report if you've not done that before. What I'm going to do, I know I said I'd take questions at the end, but before I go back to the slide deck, I'm just going to see if I can see the questions and see if there's anything I can help with. Okay, there were a couple of people early on who couldn't hear, so I hope that situation has changed. A request for snapshot reporting. Yes, I'm going to come back to that in just a second. And what was the other one? Will the slides be available after the session? I don't see why not. I hadn't particularly thought of sharing them, but you're very welcome to have them. So we'll make a note and get the slides to you for sure. Let me return for a moment just to the request for snapshot reporting. I want to give you I'm not going to show you anything on this because there's a complexity to it. To leap from just how you create a brand new report to snapshot reporting is quite a big step. But in case anybody doesn't know what the basic concept of snapshot reporting is, think of it like being able to set up a schedule. If you wanted to take a photograph of your child every year on their birthday, you could do that. You can take a snapshot of them and you can put those snapshots into an album and build up a series of images of what the child looks like as they grow older. I know that's maybe a slightly odd analogy, but with Workbooks reporting, you can do the same thing. You can set up, it doesn't have to be yearly, it can be more frequent than that, but you can set up a series of taking a snapshot of a report and going back and reporting on the output of those reports. That might sound like double Dutch. The reason being, Workbooks reporting is really, really good at showing you the situation now. If I was to build a report to show me how many open cases I've got now, it will show me that. But if I look at the same report this time tomorrow, hopefully my team will have closed off a number of cases, although some new ones might have come in. So the data in the report will change every time I look at it and tell me the truth, if you like, at the point I'm looking at the report. Sometimes you want to say, yeah, that's great, but how many open cases did I have yesterday? And if you've taken that snapshot, that picture, and you've put it in your album, you can go back and look at that page in your album. So yeah, slightly strange analogy, I guess, but I do like to take things away from just the tech description of how things work. So snapshot reporting, we can do some sessions on that. And actually, we have done a webinar on snapshot reporting. So we'll make sure that the person who asked that question, I won't name you right now, has got a link to that recording just to see if that helps at all. Okay, nothing else coming in just now, so that's fine. What I'm going to do, if I can work out how to do it, is to just go back to my slide deck for a moment. Bear with me. And yep, definitely having trouble with this folks, sorry. That's better. So just a few tips to round up on report building. So before you put your fingers on the keyboard, just have a think about what it is that you want to convey and about the way in which your audience is going to digest that information, because spending a little bit of time planning your report up front, in my experience at least, is going to save you a lot of time later heading off possibly in the wrong direction and having to go and start again. So remember, those reports could be about reporting on historic performance. They could be about guiding the next steps, what somebody has to do that day, that week, that month. Or it could be about creating lists for marketing purposes, for targeting messages. My next tip would be, if you don't have to reinvent the wheel, then don't. Go and reuse or modify existing reports wherever possible. So the options like copy an existing report, or even if you're just saying, I'll use a template or a pre-populated report rather than starting from blank. Certainly when you're in the early stages of reporting, you'll find that easier. I would say possibly once you're a bit more experienced in reporting, you might actually like to start from blank so that you can absolutely control what's in there and you don't have to remove anything that somebody else thought was a good idea. But to begin with, just try and reuse things. Slight caveat there. I'm sure all of your colleagues build amazing reports, but sometimes copying a report can multiply a problem. What I mean by that is if the original report isn't quite right and you just copy it and just assume it's right, then your report is going to be wrong as well. So as long as you're confident that the report is doing exactly what it should do, then copy it, modify it as you need to. Other tips, bit corny here, but yeah, join more webinars if you want to know more about building reports. Come along to one of our training courses. We run a 2-day reporting training course every month, and there are also some online videos if you wanted to watch those just to augment these sessions really. So I wonder if there's been any more questions. Right, let me bring those up so I can see them. Okay, so I'm just reading through them. So in snapshot reporting, can you set it to automatically take that snapshot? Yes, you absolutely can. You build it on a schedule and you can take snapshots. Trying to remember, I think it's as frequently as every hour. I think. Don't quote me on that. But you can certainly take them daily, you can take them weekly, you can take them monthly. So you don't manually have to go in and remember to do that. Is there a cost for the 2-day training course? Yes, there is. We need to sort of cover our costs in terms of we provide lunches and training manuals and that sort of thing. But Adam, have a chat with your account manager about that, and we'd love to see you. They take place in our offices here in Reading. How can you register for the next workshop? If you mean the next session like this, there will be an email coming out probably next week, much like the one you've already received, where you can register for the next workshop. What we ideally want to get to is the ability for you to just get one link and you just drop in whenever you want to, rather than having to register every time. But there's a slight technical glitch with that right now. We are looking to fix that, but look out for your email. If you mean how do you register to come on a training course, then by all means speak to your account manager, or you can drop an email to training@workbooks.com. Right, let me see. You're trying to create a report that can pull contact information from all organisations that are interested in a specific industry, along with their contact info from all of their associated people. Can you offer any advice? You're talking there, James, about building reports that join two data tables or record types together. So in that example, from what I can gather, you're talking about joining organisation records, employer records, and people records, the people that work for those organisations. I would generally advise in that kind of situation, start your report by basing it on people. And then when you're adding in columns, when you select a new column to add, you'll see one that says employer, and it'll have a black triangle pointing to the right next to it. When you click on that, it'll open up a new field. And what you're actually doing there, whether you realize it or not, you're actually joining two data tables together. And when you join onto the employers, then you're given the choice of all the fields that exist on employer organizations. So you're then able to say, I want to find employers, whatever your criteria are, whether they're in a particular industry, interested in a particular industry, based in a particular town, that sort of thing. I'll try and remember to send you a link to a recording that talks about how to join data tables together. There will be a session in this series that looks at that, but you probably don't want to wait until then, so we'll try and get you a link before then. Let me go back to other questions. I think that's about it. If anybody's got any more questions, please start typing quickly so that I know that you've got something to ask. Nothing much coming through right now. So just to follow up, as I mentioned, the next topic in a couple of weeks' time on the 26th of February. Remember, this will be 4 p.m. UK time, which I think, if I've got my summers right, is about 11 o'clock for those of you who might be on the east coast of the States, and 8 a.m. if you're on the west coast. So it's going to be about building simple list reports. So simply a bit like a landing page, but adding in criteria, that sort of thing. So that's the topic for next time. If you need help in the meantime, if you didn't know, we've got a knowledge base, even if you did know. Anywhere within Workbooks that you see a question mark symbol, if you click on it, it will hop you out to our knowledge base, hopefully to relevant information. If you click on it on a person record, it will take you to information about people. If you click on it on a report, it'll take you to information about reporting. So try that out, see if you can find what you're looking for. By all means, bookmark the workbooks.com/help URL, just to make that a bit easier on a day-to-day basis. For those of you who are authorized support contacts, or if you want to have a word with your authorized support contact, you can always raise cases with our support team by emailing support@workbooks.com. And there are a couple of telephone numbers there. I'm not going to read them out. Some of you may be using our case portal, which is another interface that will allow you to log cases with us, again, if you're an authorized support contact. For general queries about your Workbooks account, please feel free to contact your account manager. They'd be happy to help, and if necessary, they can put you onto the support team. Hopefully we'll see you on another session. And so, for now, all that remains for me is to say thank you all very much for attending. I hope that, although we're starting with the very basics, I hope that it gave you some guidance and that you found it useful. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much, everybody. Goodbye for now.